Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to welcome you all here once again to the Kwabena Nketia Center for Africana Studies. So today we gather under a new yet deeply connected theme, the Golden Stool and the God-King concept. The Golden Stool holds an unparalleled place in Akan tradition, representing the unity and spiritual authority of the Ashanti people. As we explore the concept of the God King, we delve into the profound link between the divine authority and leadership embodied by the stool, a symbol of power that transcends time. This event provides us with the opportunity to reflect on the spiritual foundations that have shaped our heritage and to consider how these ideals continue to guide us in modern times. I look forward to the insights that today's discussion will surely bring. Thank you once again for joining us. Good afternoon.
Once again, I'd like to welcome you to another public event at the Kwabena Nketia Center for Africana Studies. My name is Professor Tracy Flemming. I have the privilege of welcoming you to the AUCC campus as well as to the Nketia Center. I'd first like to mention that since the creation of the world's first educational institutions in Africa, three elements have been central to the mission of Black Studies since its inception in the 1960s. And these three elements are cultural grounding, academic excellence, and social responsibility. These have been significant factors that many educators place an emphasis on as a part of teaching and advising students. And these factors remain central dimensions of the leading Africana studies programs in the 21st century. The Kwabena Nketia Center for Africana Studies seeks to become the center of intellectual and social life at the African University College of Communications for all things related to Africa-centered study, to the Africa-centered study of Africa and the African world community. The Nketia Center is positioned to accomplish this lofty goal by virtue of its being located in the heart of the city of Accra. Africana Studies programming that reflects our global approach to Africana Studies, inclusive of continental Africa and the African diaspora, and continued collaboration with other areas and units is central to our commitment to creating a dynamic space of intellectual and social life related to Africa and the African world community. The aim of the Kwabena Nketia Center for Africana Studies at AUCC is to serve as the foundation of the university's commitment to ensuring that its overall mission is African-centered. The Kwabena Nketia Center for Africana Studies is an interdisciplinary institution dedicated to the study and advancement of knowledge about the peoples and cultures of Africa and the African diaspora through scholarly research, teaching, and publications aimed at the regeneration of African peoples and societies. Programs in the Nketia Center are designed to accomplish at least 5 goals. Number 1, to create and deepen students' awareness of themselves as Africans. Number 2, to enable students to come to an understanding of Africa's role in the world from an African perspective. Number 3, to give students knowledge of African philosophy, religions, and values that will instill confidence in them so that they can function as citizens and contribute their lot to society. Number 4, to introduce students to indigenous knowledge systems in Africa so that they can appreciate Africa's contribution to universal knowledge and be inspired by it. And number 5, to understand the African diaspora as a foundational presence in the creation of civilizations in the Americas and elsewhere in the world. It is my privilege to welcome you to the Nketia Center and to the African University College of Communications. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hey, please, nobody responded. Okay, so welcome to the Kwabena Nketia Center for Africana Studies. This is actually the second edition of this seminars and third edition. Okay, so if you were here last week, I will tell you that this week is actually going to be better than it was. And before the speaker actually comes, I want to read something small on him. He was born Kwabena Bafo Ewa. He was born Kwabena Bafo Ewa as a great grandson of Wafo Ewa Nketia, Chief of Defense Staff of the Asante Imperial Army and occupant of the Puduo Wars in Bantama, Kumasi. He began his foray into spiritual and metaphysics sciences at a very tender age when he was ordained a school chaplain in junior high school. He later joined the North Kanechi Presbyterian Church after college and became a chorister for 5 good years. From the church, things took an interesting turn for him. He joined the Latter-day Saints and he later became a Mormon, taking initiation into the Aaronic priesthood. After studying Mormonism for a year, he's left to serve as a tabernacle of the Ethiopian African Black International Church in Tafo, where he was turbaned by the high priest as a prophet. In his quest for knowledge, he drove him to the Hebrew Israelite community to experience the heart of veganism and Afro-Arab connectivity. This man has actually been to so many places. And so, to cut everything short, he traveled a lot. He went to India, he went to Nepal to visit the birthplace of Lord Buddha, and he ended up in Tibet to interact with Buddhist mystics. Next to the journey, he visited Burkina Faso, Mali, Gambia, Mauritania, and the rest to study quite a number of things. He is actually somebody who has an honorary doctorate degree in leadership and humanitarian services from the Asian University International. He is also the Dzaaae, that is the kingmaker of the Sowutuom in Mpese Royal Stool. He operates a healing house and a spiritual temple dedicated to all energies. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the speaker for today, Gyawu.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Once again, I'm very grateful to be in your presence to share information on the trilogy that we started, Lessons in Traditions. And today we are going to continue with the topic, the Golden Stool and the God King concept. Yes, and like she rightly said, the Golden Stool represents a very significant object or relic among the Akans, and more so especially among the Asantes. Last week, we spent quite some time studying about stools, the different types of stools, the white stools, the black stools, the mix of the stools, the signs, the symbols of the stools, the languages that the stools speak, and the hierarchy of the stools, the authority of each stool and how it's made, and who possesses which power based on the stool that they occupy. So today, we are going to be studying the subject on the golden stool and the God King concept, and this is actually one of my favorite subjects. So please, with your permission, we can roll to the first slide. Okay, so to understand the golden stool, first and foremost, we need to understand what a stool is. So those of you that were here last week would have had some knowledge on what a stool is, what it signifies, and what it represents, and what it says in both in ceremonial spaces and also in spiritual spaces. So what is a stool in Akan chieftaincy, one may ask? A stool is the most important relic. The stool is the most important relic in Akan traditions, in Akan culture, in Akan customs. The stool is the single most important relic. The stool is more important than the gold. The stool is more important than the mineral resources. The stool is more important, even to a very large extent, over the people who represent the community. The stool contains the soul of the community. The stool is the centerpiece, the fulcrum around which the community revolves. The stool is the lawgiver in every Akan society, because whoever occupies the stool is the chief lawgiver. And whoever occupies the stool only has as much power as the stool allows them to have. So what is a stool in Akan chieftaincy? I would say a stool, like I said, is the most important relic in Akan tradition. Now, we will ask, what is a black stool? The black stool, like we discussed last week, the black stool is a special stool that contains the trapped souls and the trapped energies of past kings. So the black stool actually represents the physical, is a physical representation of past chiefs and past kings and past royalty. So the black stool is actually the superior stool to the white stool. And then one may ask, what is the golden stool to the Asantes? We have the white stool in Asante, which is for the living. The white stools are made for the living. The black stool is made for the dearly departed. And then the golden stool is actually the power, the authority, the soul, the fulcrum. It is the beginning and the end of the Asante nation. The golden stool is the beginning of the story of the new Asante nation, because we will get into that. Everybody had their own source of power. Everyone had their own source of authority before the formation of the Asante Confederacy. However, with the emergence of the golden stool, all other forms of authorities were buried in the ground and they became null and void. And the history of Asante was commanded to start from the commencement of the golden stool. So please, let's flip to them. Okay, now we are talking about Akans. And one may ask, who are the Akans? Who are the Akans? Does anybody have any information on who the Akans are?
I don't know tree-speaking peoples.
Most Akans are tree-speaking people. The majority of Akans are tree-speaking people. However, we have the Kwapim tree, in Zima tree. We have the Fanti tree, and then we have the Wasa tree. We have the Bono tree. They are all tree-speaking people. And then we have the Asante tree. So the Akans are a group of people that are bound together by a common family system called the Intong. We have different kinds of clans that constitutes the Akan society, which is, I belong to the Ekwana clan. Some people belong to the Breto clan. Others belong to the Asuna clan. Others belong to the Aseche clan. Others belong to the Agona clan. And then recently, a new clan has been approved, which is the Jako clan. The Jakos are those that left Adako Jachi and then led by the Queen Mother Abnapoku, who crossed over all the way to settle in modern day Ivory Coast, and they are known as the Baoulés. The Baoulés are Asantis that actually migrated from Adakujachi, all the way to Ivory Coast due to warfare that ensued when two brothers were actually vying for the spot to become the Asante chief. So when we talk about Akans, we are talking about Akwapim people, we are talking about Nzima people, we are talking about Bono people, we are talking about Wasa people, we are talking about Fantis, we are talking about Nzimes, we are talking about different groupings that is bound by the common clan system, and then they are also bound by a common hereditary system, because all the Akan states have the woman to be the embodiment or the beginning of the family. So each and every Akan state practices a matrilineal system of inheritance. So these are basic things that qualifies one as an Akan. And who are the Asantis? If they say someone is an Asanti, who is an Asanti? Asantis, people think Asantis are people that come from Kumasi. No. People think Asantis are people that actually are part of the Asante Confederacy. No. You can be an Asante by birth, or you can be an Asante by allegiance. You can be an Asante by birth, or you can be an Asante by allegiance. Being an Asante by birth is when either your mother is an Asante or your father inherits a patrilineal stool like myself. My mother is not Asante, but I am Asante. So in the technical sense, I am not qualified to be an Asante because my mother is not Asante. But my father comes from the Bantama Puduo lineage, and in the Bantama Puduo lineage, we inherit by patrilineal. We don't inherit matrilineal. So the major form of inheritance is the matrilineal. However, spaces were made, you understand, for the patrilineal system to also function alongside the matrilineal. However, the patrilineal is not as strong and not as influential as the matrilineal, inheritors. So for me personally, I am Asante by virtue of the fact that I inherit from a patrilineal stool family. So that is by birth and that is by royalty. One can become an Asante through allegiance. Anyone who swears allegiance to the golden stool is considered an Asante. You can be Dagomba, you can be Frafra, you can be Moshi, you can be an Ethiopian, you can be from Costa Rica. As long as you swear allegiance to the golden stool, technically you are considered to be an Asante by affiliation. So we have two forms of Asantes. The Asantes by birth or by birthright, and Asantes by affiliation or by allegiance to the golden stool. That is who the Asantes are. And when they say Asante, what does Asante means? Asante. Asante is a combination of two words, Osa and Inti. Osa means war. Inti for the purpose of. So a group of people who came together for the purpose of war. So we'll go deeper into that. And then the coming of the Asante Confederacy. Asantes are slaves of Dentra before the coming of the Asante Confederacy. The Asantes were not an empire. Asante was not an empire in the beginning. Asante was a conglomeration of different independent states, with each and every state having their own unique black stool, having their own unique paramountcy, having their own unique laws, having their own independence. So before the formation of the Asante Confederacy or the Asante Empire, every single state in the Confederacy was already a paramountcy on their own, and they did not answer to anybody. Dzaaae did not answer to anybody. Kwabena did not answer to anybody. Bekwai did not answer to anybody. Esumeja did not answer to anybody. Dzaaae did not answer to anybody. Bekwai did not answer to anybody. Mampon did not answer to anybody. These states were independent states on their own. They could make their own decisions without having to consult with anyone else. However, all these states were in servitude to the dangerous, who at that time was ruled by Nana Ntim Jakari. Ntim Jakari was a very notorious, very fierce, very stubborn, and a very, very, very wicked king that subjected the Asantes, the Asante states, the independent states, to a lot of torture. So every year, all these independent states were supposed to send some bars of gold and gold dust to the king of Denchira, as Ntim Jakari. And then every year you have to send your wife, all the kings and the kingmakers and the royals, you have to send your wife to go and serve under the king of the Denchira king. So sometimes your wife will go and serve for 6 months under the Denchira king, and then when your wife comes back, your wife is pregnant. Can you imagine? So now it went all the way to a point where now Ntim Jakari decided that the gold that was being given as tribute was not enough. So he sent big brass bowls for those ones to be filled with gold, and also every royal in Asante was supposed to add a finger. You're supposed to add a finger to what? The gold. And it was for 2 reasons. It was to create mental dominion, and also as a king in Asante, you cannot have deformation. If you are deformed physically, you cannot sit on a black stool. So the idea was, let's deform all these royals so that our future can be secured. Because those that are eligible for kingship, that are coming up, once you deform them, then they wouldn't have kingship. You understand? In the next 20 years, the next 30 years. So it was a strategic ploy by Ntim Jakari. So all these states came together and realized that no, we need to do something about this situation. However, where were the men? Where was the direction? Where was the inspiration for them to go to war with the dangerous? So it came to a point where Okonfo-Anokye showed, Okonfo-Anokye is the high priest that actually set the 77 laws of Asante. Asante is operated on 77 laws of Okonfo-Anokye. So Okonfo-Anokye set up the 77 laws, just as in the Bible we have the 10 commandments. The Asante nation is governed by 77 laws. And it was Okonfo-Anokye that set the 77 laws to be used to govern the empire of the Asantes. So they had no option than to be like, you know what, let's come together and then fight one common enemy in Ntim Jakari. So all these independent states came together. And why did they come together? They came together for the purpose of war. So that is why we have Osa, Enti, Osa, war. Enti for the purpose of. So when we say Asante, it is for the purpose of war, the purpose of unity. And Asante goes beyond just the region. There are 2 Asantes. We have the Asante region and the Asante Empire. The Asante region is different from the Asante Empire. The Asante region has its capital in Kumasi. The Asante Empire transcends the borders of Ghana. There are 2 different Asantes, the Asante region and the Asante Empire. And then we also have the philosophy behind Asante. Asante is not only a state, Asante is a philosophy. It is a philosophy and it's also a religion. Now that religion has a relic, just like the Christians have the cross. The cross is the symbol of Christianity, right? The crescent and the star is the symbol of what? Islam. In Asante, we also have a divine symbol that represents the state, that represents who we are as a people. So this crown that you see here is called a Denchemche, the crocodile hat. This particular hat was given to Osei Tutu I, after he had served for several years under the Akwemus, when he was being chased in Dentra for impregnating the niece of the king of Dentra, that is in Tim Jakari. So when he ran away from Dentra, then he sought solace with the Akwemu people and Sasasreku. So after he had served under Sasasreku, it was the Akwemus that taught the Asantes the art of warfare. It was the Akwemus who taught the Asantes how to fight. It was the Akwemus who taught the Asantes all the secrets of guerrilla warfare. It was the Akwemus who were the first protectors or the protectorates of the Asante state. So when Osei Tutu's uncle Obriyabwa passed, and Osei Tutu was supposed to be the king of Kwamai, at that time there was nothing like Kumasi. There was nothing like Kumasi. Kumasi was called Kwamai. There was nothing like Kumasi. Back then, Kumasi was known as Kwamai. So when Osei Tutu was coming from Akwemu, this is what was given to him, and it became a state symbol. So when they were moving from Akwemu to Kwamai, the king of Akwemu gave 300 soldiers to Osei Tutu to guide him and protect him all the way, and his entourage all the way from Akwemu to Kwamai. So when they got to Kwamai, that is when every paramountcy, when he became the king, every paramountcy was given an Akwemu chief as tribute to what the Akwemus did for the Asantes whilst they were traversing or they were in times of need. So the coming of the Asante Confederacy, like I said, was based off a necessity for unity. So if everybody in this room, we come together and we say we agree that we are going to do a particular project. Once we are unified for a particular project, we consider it as Asante. We consider the United Nations to be Asante. We consider the Economic Community of West African States to be Asante. We consider the African Union to be Asante. That is the philosophy of Asante. So Asante is not the kente wearing people in Kumasi. It's not the gold wearing people in Kumasi. If we want to consider it as a philosophy, it is a mindset. When two people agree to do anything, or two people agree to achieve a particular subject matter, that philosophy of coming together to achieve that subject matter is considered Asante. The coming of the golden stool. So, because everybody was an individual power, an authority on their own, the high priest Konfanochi decided that this is what we are going to do. We have to be unified. But you cannot put 4, 5, 6, 7 masters, grandmasters, into one particular space, because there's going to be ego and there's going to be a friction as to who is supposed to lead. So Okonfanochi said this. Now, I need the whole of Asante mind, because it was not Asante then. All these various chieftaincy, Dwabin, Kokofu, Bekwai, Sumeja, Mampong. You understand? All of them had to come together in one sitting. And he said, I'm going to pray to the universe. I'm going to implore the gods and the deities to choose amongst all of you one particular leader who is supposed to lead you to war and who is supposed to lead you to greatness. So all of them came together. And Okonfanochi started whatever he had to start. He did his incantations, his rituals, his ceremonies. He did it for 7 days. So on the Friday, whilst he was doing what he had to do, there was a thick clouds in the heavens. And then the golden stool appeared in the heavens and gently descended on the laps of Osei Tutu the First. So when the golden stool descended on Osei Tutu the First, Then everybody in attendance saw the stool coming, descending on Osei-Tutu. So it was not Okomfo-Anokye that decided that Osei-Tutu had to be the king of Asante. It was the gods that chose him in front of everybody, or in the presence of everybody, for them to acknowledge Osei-Tutu as the first king of the Asante Empire. Please. Okay, so there, like I said, all of them had their own black stools. But then what happened is that Okomfo-Anokye was seeking to create a superior stool to all the black stools. And every black stool was made from wood, was carved from wood. But then the golden stool is not carved from wood. And there's a secret behind the reverence of the golden stool. We have about 5-6 different kingdoms. We have the mineral kingdom, we have the plant kingdom, we have the animal kingdom, we have the human kingdom, and then we have the spiritual kingdom. Now, if you go into mythology, the mineral kingdom also has a hierarchy. What is the most precious mineral in the earth? Gold. So gold is the leader. Gold is the leader in the mineral kingdom. I want you to juxtapose this very well. Gold is the leader in the mineral kingdom. So when gold appeared in the form of a stool, it was considered to be a message from the realms of the supreme, because the scientists have always seen themselves to be from the pharaonic order. We have names like Tutu-Ankama that we derive or believe to be from Tutankhamun. But if it comes to Asante, it's not Tutankhamun, it is Tutu-Ankoma. We have names like Nefertiti. When it comes to Asante, it becomes Ifrititi. We have names like Osiris. When it comes to Asante, it becomes Asari. We have names like Isis. When it comes into Asante, it becomes Asasi. So Asante has always defined itself, or has always found a way to connect itself to ancient Kemet. And in ancient Kemet, the ruler, the king, the pharaoh, was the representative of God on earth amongst the people. The pharaoh was the representative of the sun god Ra. The color of gold is connected to the sun. Silver is connected to the moon. That is why Muslims don't use gold. They use silver, because silver is connected to the moon. The vibration of silver works best with the moon. The vibration of gold works best with the sun. So you see an Akan chief sitting state, and there is an umbrella on him. Why? Because of the halo. You see, when you look at all these ancient pictures of the saints, you see a halo on them, right? The halo is like a sun disk. So when the king sits in public with the umbrella on him, or the queen mother sits instead with the umbrella on her, it is actually depicting the halo. So this is a divine being. So if there are 1,000 people seated and there's a king amongst us, how do we define, or how do we identify who the king is? It's by the umbrella. The umbrella is the halo over that person, so that everybody can see that this is a divine being. So after the golden stool had descended from the heavens on the lap of Osei-Tutu I, what happened is that there was a ritual covenant that sealed the power of the golden stool. All the major kings and the chiefs that were there present, everybody had to bring their nail clippings, their finger clippings, their toe clippings, their hair. You understand? And then Okomfo-Anokye added certain herbs to it, made some magical potions to it, and then used those magical potions and their blood, a drop of their blood. All the kings, they gave a drop of their blood. You understand? And then he used that as a ritual potion to empower the Sikejwa. So all the kings who were present, they made a blood covenant to the Sikeja, asserting the power and the dominion of the golden stool over their own stools. And then after that was done, the most important thing that came after the ritual covenants of the golden stool was the burial of the old black stools and the prophecy of Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital. Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital came about, the prophecy of Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital came about when all the black stools that were present in Asante at that moment were gathered and buried. How many of you have been to Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital where the Okomfanochi saw this? Has anyone been to where the Okomfanochi saw this? You've not been there, but you know of where the Okomfanochi saw this. Okay. Underneath where the Okomfanochi saw this, that is where all the black stools in Asantes were buried. All the old black stools that existed in Asante before the coming of the golden stool, every one of them was gathered and buried at that particular spot. So where the Okomfanochi sword is, underneath it, the old powers, all the old powers of Asante is buried there. And then Okomfanochi prophesied that people will come to this particular place and come and seek for healing. So before the coming of the Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital, that whole space was a sacred forest that people used to go and pray. When you are sick, you go and you pray. They didn't have a priest. You just go and you pray. So the herbs over there were considered sacred. Women will go there and then they will make their oblations and their offerings, and then they will get pregnant. People that were sick from physical and spiritual ailments just went there, you understand, because Okomfanochi said that this place is going to be a place where people will travel far and wide to receive their healing. So the sword that was planted there became the covenant between the golden stools, the old stools, and then the new age. And when I talk about the new age, something happened. When the black stools were buried, Okomfanochi made it clear that from today, as the golden stool has descended, Asante has no history again from the past. Our history will begin on the day the golden stool descended. So whatever history your clan holds 200 years prior, we have to delete all that. Whatever my family's history was 100 years before the coming of the golden stool, everything had to be deleted. So nobody had any form of history, because at that particular moment, we had become one flesh. We had become one nation. We had become a new being. So the new heaven and the new earth, the new heaven and the new earth, the new Jerusalem of Asante actually came about when the golden stool descended from the heavens. So that became the beginning of the new heaven and the new earth for Asante. That became the beginning of the history of Asante. That became the beginning of the rites and the rituals and ceremonies of Asante. So the old Asante, all the different tribes, you understand, whatever was in the past, everything became null and became void. And from the time of the golden stool, the history of Asante began. Any questions? Okay. So what are the functions and the position of the golden stool in Asante? The golden stool is the most powerful relic. Asante does not exist without the golden stool. Asante has no power but the golden stool. Asante has no existence but the golden stool. Asante has no glory but the golden stool. Asante has no power but the golden stool. Because every chief, every sub-chief, the Odikro swears allegiance to the Ahimfo. The chiefs swear allegiance to the Amaihini, the paramount chiefs. The paramount chiefs swear allegiance to Otumfo Setu to the first, or Otumfo Setu to whoever the Otumfo is at that moment. But whoever the Otumfo is at that moment swears allegiance to only one thing, which is what? So the golden stool is superior to Otumfo. Otumfo's power is based off the power the golden stool allows him to have. So, the functions and the position of the golden stool is that it sits supreme above every power, every deity in Asante, every river, every stool, every tree, every child, every animal, including lizards, frogs, grasshoppers, everything in Asante belongs to the golden stool. I belong to the golden stool. My children belong to the golden stool. If you build 10 houses, it does not belong to you. It belongs to the golden stool because you don't have land. No chief has land. It's only the golden stool that owns everything. So then it became the fulcrum, it became the religious relic by which we all gather to pay allegiance or to pay homage and also to renew our bonds of friendship and also to renew our bonds of nationhood. Please. So these are some of the functions of the golden stool. So now this is the second segment, which is the God-King concept. Before we go into the God-King concept, do you have any questions before I proceed to the second segment? Or I should finish with the second segment and then we run through it. Okay, so the second segment is on the God-King concept. Talking about the God-King concept, there is something that has been brewing in Ghana over some time. And sometimes some people say, we don't have no king in Ghana. Some chiefs and some kings don't even know how to define themselves. Some of them say they are chiefs, some say they are kings. But a chief and a king is not a traditional definition. A chief is the European definition of leadership in Ghana. A king is a European definition of a king here or a leader here in Ghana. However, when we talk about Ohini, like I said in the previous statement, in the previous lecture, Ohini means an opener, hini, to open. Right? If you open this, you say hinimi, open. So the stool, as you see it, is a vortex. Every stool is a vortex. Every stool is a vortex, it's a door. So there's only one person that can open that door, and it is that Ohini. A king cannot open the vortex, and a chief cannot open the vortex. It is only Ohini who can open that vortex of the black stool or the white stool. So, for instance, there is a king that opens, or is a Ohini that opens this particular door, this vortex. When you open this vortex, it leads to the corridor. Right? When we walk the corridor, where does it lead to? It leads to the library. But you cannot enter the library if you don't open that other door that leads to the library. From this room to the library, you need to open this door. There's a king that needs to open it for you to allow you to get into the corridor. And then there's another king that has to open for you to enter into the library. And even when you get to the library, before you can get into Professor Flemming's office, there's another door. So another king has to open that door for you before you can get to the big man's office. That is the hierarchy of kingship. Every Ohini opens a particular vortex. Every one of them opens a particular vortex. So whoever the Ohini is, if they don't open this door or they don't know how to open this door, we can never get to the corridor. And even when we get to the corridor, whoever is in charge of that other door that leads to the library, if they don't have the keys to open those doors or that door, we cannot get into the library. And even if we get to the library and then we don't have the king or the chief that can open the door to Professor Flemming's office, then we can still not get to his office. So, like I said, Ohini is deeper in meaning than a king or a chief. So, for the Asantes, Otumfuo, every occupant of the golden stool is neither even an Ohini. It's not even an opener of a vortex. It's Otumfuo. And I'll explain all that. The meaning of the word Otumfuo, the meaning of the word Nyamekesi, and the meaning of the word Opimsuo. Please flip to the next. Okay, like I said, who is the chief? Who is a king and who is Ohini? The first two are definitions by the Europeans. By the way, this is my grandfather, Bantama. So per tradition, this is my father. The previous Bantama Hinin and not Bafo Gyawu-Kyem the third is the one who fathered my father. So this is my father's father per tradition. So per tradition, this is the Bantama Hinin. So he is the one who is traditionally my grandfather. So like I said, the chief is a definition, an European definition. And the king is an European definition. But the Ohene is an African definition of anyone who sits on the black stool with the power to open the vortex of that particular stool. And when you open the vortex, it leads to so many different things. It leads to development, it leads to upliftment, it leads to, you know, the community or the environment or wherever you find yourself, the space in which the king or the community finds itself to be more progressive. So if you have a bad Ohene, or if you have someone who is occupying a white stool or a black stool and they don't know the rites and the rituals and the ceremonies, you will suffer. The community will suffer. Because the whole community is seated on a stool. The power of the community is seated or is rest on a stool. So who is the one with the key to open the vortexes for the community to be able to enjoy the benefits that come with it? It is only the Ohene. But the Ohene must have the key to be able to open. If you don't have the key, you are either a chief or you are a king. So most of the people, the big rulers in Ghana who are saying there is no chief, there is no king, I consider them to be not people who really understand the concept of Ohene. Because if you understand the concept of Ohene, I don't think we should allow Europeans to define what our system is for us. Should we? Okay, I didn't say it. You said it. Okay. There are certain god kings in ancient and modern societies. So when we're talking about god kings are human beings that have ascended through history or through special events or ceremonies or special situations where they have been elevated to the statuses of the gods. Or these people are not just ordinary human beings based on historical facts and historical evidences, and also based on how the clan or the family system views them to be. The Oni of Ife, how many of you know Ile Ife? Okay, Ile Ife is where the Gans migrated from in Nigeria to present-day Ghana after they made a stopover at Aneho in Togo. Oni of Ife is considered to be a divine being. The Oni of Ife is worshipped or revered as a sanctified being, and he represents Obatala, he represents Oduduwa. Obatala and Oduduwa are the founders, the creators. They are the instigators of the formation of the Ile Ife kingdom. So the Oni of Ife is considered to be the physical representation of Obatala, the physical representation of Oduduwa, the physical representation of the first deities who came into Ile Ife to set up that kingdom. So the Oni of Ife is a god king here in Nigeria and is revered as such. The Emperor of Japan is considered to be the son of the sun. Is the son of the sun, or the offspring of the sun. So the Emperor of Japan is actually considered to be a sun god, which is not different from Ra, which is not different from Pharaoh, the concept, right? So Japan, the Emperor of Japan, also has the god king status and is also revered, and he has all the ceremonies, the rites, and the rituals that accompany his position as a god king. Emperor Haile Selassie I, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, has a whole religion ascribed to him, which is Rastafarianism or Rastafari. So the concept of Rastafari, the concept of Haile Selassie being the god figure, is not something that just started overnight. because the Jamaicans had so much to smoke and they didn't have anything to do. No. It is based off historical evidences. It's based off the concept that Africans, you understand, in certain African societies, we have seen certain leaders, or we have actually ascribed certain positions to certain leaders and then elevated them from physical beings to God beings. So Emperor Haile Selassie is also considered as one of the God kings. And then we have Xerxes. How many of you have seen 300? He says, bow down to me, Leonidas. And he used to have all this big talk, with all the gold dripping on him. And, that guy says a lot. King Xerxes was considered to be a god king among the Persians. So in ancient days, Xerxes was also worshipped as the physical embodiment of all the deities, the physical embodiment of all the energies, the physical embodiment of the powers of creation. They were all encapsulated in that being called King Xerxes of Persia, right? And then King Hammurabi. King Hammurabi was considered to be the first lawgiver in history. And King Hammurabi took his laws from the Enkis and the Enlils. The Enkis and the Enlils are actually two groups of Anunnakis. Because King Hammurabi, if you go into Persia and you go deep into their history, that is where the Anunnakis, the story of the Anunnakis are profound in those areas. And King Hammurabi was the one that was chosen to bear the laws, just as Moses went to Mount Sinai to get the laws from the God of the Bible, Yahweh. Then we have Shango, the thunder god. In Yoruba, we have Shango. Shango is considered to be half human, half deity. So Shango has very special attributes to him, and we have whole shrines, we have a whole cult, we have a whole system, we have technologies, we have healing systems, we have all these things ascribed to Shango. Shango has priests and priestesses. Shango has elders. Shango has laws. Shango has rites and rituals in his name as a divine being. That is Shango. So Shango in Yoruba is also a god king. So the concept of the god king is not something that was created by the Asantis. Asante never created the concept of the god king. The concept of the god king is an innate, ancient tradition among Africans that transpired from different spaces and different environments, and every one of them was interpreted differently. So why can't, please, okay, this is the Oni of Ife from Nigeria. This is King Xerxes from Persia, and then the Emperor of Japan. All these are god kings. All these are divine figures in their societies who are worshipped and reverenced. Some of them have temples in their names. Some of them have statues in their names. Some of them have priests and priestesses in their names. Please. Okay, that's Emperor Haile Selassie. I know he's very familiar. Selassie, Ja. Oh, hail it for me. Exactly. So that's him right there. Then he has a whole religion. You understand? He has a whole philosophy. He has a whole system ascribed to him. And is worshipped as a divine rightful being. And then we have King Hammurabi. This is King Hammurabi on the left, taking instructions and the laws from Enki, the Anunnaki. So the laws that were being practiced in ancient Persia was actually passed on to King Hammurabi by the Anunnakis. And this is Shango, the Yoruba god of thunder. In Ghana, we will call him Nana Agrada. Yeah. Yes. So Shango is considered, a god king. But in Benin and in the Volta region, they don't use the word Shango. They use heavier soap. And heavier soap means the same as Shango. But if you come to Asante and you come to Akan or you come to this part, the south, we say Agrada. Let me not use the Nana, because that one will take us to her. I don't want us to make references to her. So yes, so we call this Agrada. You understand? And that is Shango. Please flip to the next one. So among the Asantes also believe in a god king concept. Just as the Oni of Ife is a god king, King Xerxes is a god king, Shango is a god king, and Haile Selassie is a god king. Why can't he be a god king? If his people say he's a god king, then he's a god king. Because he didn't make himself, he didn't put that title on himself. He was born into that situation. And before he was born, it was already created. A system had already been created. And there was a hierarchy that was already in place. So someone will say, who is the Asantehene? The Asantehene is not, like I said, he's not a chief. He's not a paramount chief. He's not a king. Asantehene is a totally different title as to Omanhene. Asantehene, all the millions of Asantes, not only in Asante region, not in the region, but in the empire, within the empire. Because the Asante Empire transcends all the way to Mali. You find the empire is all the way in Seychelles. The empire is all the way in Brazil. If you go to Dahomey, if you go to Baoulé, you understand? The whole across West Africa and the Caribbean, if you go to the Maroons of Jamaica, the Asante Empire transcends to all those places. So everywhere that any group of people that ascribe themselves as Asantes, they have one unique global authority. And that authority is the supreme authority. And no one can challenge that authority. If you challenge that authority, you do so at the, you pay with your head. You do so at the detriment of your own life. Because you cannot challenge God. That is the concept. So let's say, who is Asantehene? Asantehene is the opener of all the vortices for all the Asantes. So that is how you would describe him. And they say, who is Otumfo Osei Tutu II Abebio? And how does a king get his Stool name? Okay. Otumfo Osei Tutu Abebio. Osei Tutu Abebio. What's the meaning of Abebio? Come again, reincarnation, the reincarnated one. So he is Otumfo Osei Tutu, the reincarnated one. Abebio. Because since the first Osei Tutu passed, after 300 years, no one has appeared with that name. No one has entered into the stool room and come back with his stool. And he is the only one that has been able to enter into that space and come back with the stool of Otumfo Osei Tutu the first. And Okonfo-Anokye prophesied when Osei Tutu the first was shot and the body was not found in the Pra River. There was a prophecy that after 300 years, Osei Tutu shall come back again to come and finish his work. And after 300 years, he's come back. So all the things that no one had authority to do, or no Asante king had the audacity to do, now he has that audacity because he has come back again. And there were certain history that were lost. A lot of the history was lost. But now he can sit in state and recollect 500 years ago what your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather did at every single point in time. So now since he came, he's doing a house cleaning. Because when there was a point in time where money, fame, influence determined who became a king or a chief in Asante, as opposed to who had access to the original bloodline. It's not money, it's not fame, it's not your education, It is bloodline. So he came, or since he came, every month he's just been cleaning them. There's never a month that passes or a week that passes without Otumfuo destooling somebody and installing the right people. Okay. So the death and the second coming of Otumfuo Osei-Tutu, the second, like I've already explained, it was something that was anticipated. And since he came, now next year, Asante is going to celebrate Ojra, something that has not been celebrated for over 150 years. Yes. You know why? Because of the crown. There's a particular crown, and there's the Busumuru sword. There's a golden sword that was taken by the British. And you can't do the Ojra without that sword. So it is the golden sword, the crown, all the things that are needed for Asante to celebrate Ojra is what he has come advocated for and brought it back to Asante. So now Asante can celebrate Ojra. But no other king had the power, the audacity to make that happen, because it was not their calling, or it was not their position to make that happen. So that is who Otumfuo Osei-Tutu the second Abebio is, the God King of the Asantes. Please flip to them. Okay, so they say these are the titles: Otumfuo, Nyamekese, Opimsuo. What is the meaning of Otumfuo? What does Otumfuo mean? Otumfuo. Mm-hmm.
The wielder of Tumi.
The wielder of Tumi, power. Otumfuo Nyankopon. Otumfuo Nyankopon. And there's only one entity that has the power and the audacity to hold that name or that title, which is the supreme God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, whichever name you ascribe to it, Buddha, Krishna. They are the only people that have the power to call themselves Almighty God, or Almighty this, Almighty Allah, the Almighty Jehovah, the Almighty Krishna. But in a sense, we also have the Almighty Osei-Tutu. We do. So this is our Almighty. So when you think of the God of the Bible, Yahweh, that you don't see as an abstract form, ours is not abstract. We can actually define who that power is. So Otumfuo, the title he holds, is a title that is reserved only for God, the supreme being. Then you come back to Nyamekese. What is the meaning of Nyamekese? The big God, the great God. So meaning we have the small gods, we have the medium gods, and then we have the big God itself. So he is not a medium God, he is not a small God, he is Nyamekese, the great God of the universe, to the Asantes. So the Asantes don't have any other God, they don't know any other God, they know Nyamekese. And the Nyamekese is a power that resides in Asokore Mampon. It's called Osei-Tutu Nyamekese. It's power. It's a living power that is still there in Asokore Mampon. So the Nyamekese is the great God, Otumfuo is the Almighty God, and then Opimsuo. Opimsuo is a title reserved for people like Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, divine beings. Opimsuo means it's a title reserved for people who are like super special. They're not just ordinary beings. So Opimsuo is not reserved for mortals. All the titles he wields, they are not titles reserved for mortals. These are titles reserved for immortals. So we can have the Bafos, we can have the Otutujagus, we can have the Osiadieyos, we can have the whatever. But to hold the title of Nyamekese, your spirit must be big enough to hold that title, because that title alone can pressurize you and compress you and deflate you. So what authority does Otumfuo wield among the Asantes as a God King? The authority he wields as a God King is basic. He has a supreme, final authority in Asante. Everything in Asante belongs to him. Like I said, every car, every tree, every bird, every frog, every lizard, every river, even the rain. When it is raining in Asante, that rain belongs to him. Every rain that drops in Asante belongs to him. And it rains because of him. That is the Asante concept. That is why you see the Asantes revere Otumfuo so much. You understand? But people might not understand why he is so revered. He is revered based off historical evidences, and he is revered because, like I said in the beginning, Asante is a state, and the state has a state religion. Who knows the state religion of the Asantes? The state religion. It's not Akom. Akom is one of them. Akom is a practice. You have a state religion. In Konyasum, the state religion of Asante is in Konyasum, the worship of stools. That is the state religion. Asantes have a worship, and their worship is the worship of the stool. When you worship the stool, you are worshiping the state. When you worship the stool, you worship the state. And for us, when they say Osum means service. So the religion of Asante is service or servitude to the stool. And once you are serving the stool, you are serving what? The state. We serve the state through the stool. So we do in Konyasum, just as we have Christosum, in Kremosum, which is what? Islam. Christosum is what? And Kremosum is what? Islam. And then we have Hindusum. We have Buddhism. We have all these different Osum. Someone will say, oh, I'm Christoni, mean I'm a Christian, or I am Kremoni, meaning you are what? Muslim. So when someone tells you they are Asantini, I'm telling you deep secrets today. When someone says, I am Asantini, that person is making reference to their religious affiliation. Asante is a religion. It's a full-time religion. The golden stool is a religion. That is why when it is time for Akosidai, after every 40 days, when we are going to the palace, what do we say? Yakosum. Yakosum. So when we are going to the palace, we say Yakosum. We are going to do service. Because the concept of worship to us is not just to venerate and pray and light candles and incense. The concept of worship is service. So that is why you see every Asante man wants to go beyond the extreme to achieve something to gain the attention of Otumfuo. And every Asante will go to the extreme just for that name. To the extreme, the Asantes will put fame above money. There's only two things that drive Asantes, fame and money. But fame is more important to the Asantes than money. As to, if I go to Kumasi like this, I eat free in certain places. All I have to do is just mention my grandfather's name and raise my shoulders. And you understand? And bully them with the name. You understand? So you can have all the money in Asante, but then it will get to a point they will ask you, who is your grandfather? Who is your uncle? Or who is your auntie? Why do they ask that? We want to know what your bloodline has contributed to the formation of the empire, not the money you are showing us. So you can come with $10 billion. If my great-great-grandfather at a point in time when the king was thirsty and then he fetched water for the king to survive, he has more authority over you than the $10 million that you are showing at that particular moment. So fame is an extremely important factor in Asante. That is why, how do you call it? That's why, what's the name? What's my friend is saying? Chinebu Akodia. You know, the one that was the Akwemu chief that was beheaded, you know, for the war, and all those people that gave themselves freely to be sacrificed for victory. They did that because they know that their families were going to benefit from that. And everyone that has given freely of themselves to Asante to establish. Their great-great-great-grandchildren are enjoying up to today. They have access, they have protocols, they have special treatment. So that is our worship. That is what we know as a religion, is the worship of stools. That is in Konyasom. Here, please, do we have further slides? Okay, no, go back again. Go back. Yeah, again. Yeah. Okay, right here. You know this batakari that he's wearing? Do you know the story behind it? Okay, around I think 1752, 1753 thereabout. He invited the Yana, the king of the Dagombas, for a peace talk. So when the Yana was coming, this is what the Yana brought. So all that he is wearing, it was a gift from the king of Dagomba. Yana, it was a gift that was presented to him. You know, and with this, when he wears, there's a lot of things that happen. You know, and when he only wears this at very special occasions, when a royal, anyone sitting on the black stool, or a very big royal, you understand, passes on. So when he wears this, then you know, like, it is a very, very serious occasion. So that is his battle dress, you know. Yep. So, back to the subject matter of the God King. There are different God Kings that have actually passed through our families. And aside the communal God Kings, I'm very sure each and everyone has an avatar in their home. Someone who was the matriarch or who was the patriarch of the family. So the matriarch or the patriarch of your family in a kind system is also your immediate God King. So if your family was founded by Nana, whoever founded that family becomes the God King of that particular family. You have some questions. I see a lot of questions on your faces, so let the questions roll now. Your hands was up, right? Please, who is facilitating the question? Please coordinate that for me. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. So my question is, going back to Okonfanochi, and then you was mentioning that thing learning from Enlil and...
Yeah, Enki and Enlil.
Enki and Enlil. I've always been fascinated by the fact that people do magic based on Enki and the knowledge they brought. They talk about Enochian magic. And when you look at the spelling Enochian, it's really Enochian. And I've always been fascinated, and I know from a diviner who said to me that when he defined Okonfanochi was older than the dates that were given. Do you yourself have any theories about this idea of the Anunnaki and Anochi?
This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Oh,
This is the very first time I'm hearing this. However, I wouldn't be surprised. Because the concept of Enki and Enlil is not something that is new. You understand? If you go to Tutu, Kwapim Tutu, the creation story of Kwapim Tutu says that the forefathers that came to set up Kwapim Tutu was a male and a female who came in a brass saucer. Yeah, they came in a saucer, and the saucer, had chains attached to it to the heavens. So they came, with the chains and the saucer, and they came settled by the riverside, which is the Esiojuma, and then they started building the Tutu Township. So the concept of extraterrestrial beings is not something new to any of our African traditions. The same concept as they have in Dogon, of the male and the female deity coming to set up the Dogon Empire, is the same concept they have in Kwapim Tutu. So I will not put anything past the Enki and the what? Anunnakis and I would not put anything beyond that or anything past that. Yes, but I will look more into it. You know, these are very interesting. You pique my mind. So I'm going to go into it and then see how, you know, the next edition, what answers I come up with. You have questions? I see you. You've been nodding your head. You have questions? If we have questions, who has questions? Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Fortunately, I'm coming from an area that you are very close to. That is happening to my new town.
Oh.
I'm sure that rings some bell.
Yes.
And I'm very happy to see somebody like you closer to my community and having so much knowledge about our history. God richly bless you.
Thank you.
And I'm very sure and hopeful that this, like you have started, will affect my brothers from that community as well. Okunfuanochi, I've heard severally people say he's from here, he's from the Volta region, he's from this region. Do you know where he's coming from?
Okay, we have an animal, a bird called Ofo. Ofo is a very beautiful bird, right? It's a very beautiful bird. So when everybody has anything to say or whatever they do, they have to bring in the Ofo. So when they say police for, when they say a soldier for, when they say what other for do we have? A comfort, a driver for. You understand? The Ofo is a subject matter that you cannot take it out of every conversation. So the Okonfo Anochi, you understand? It's a subject matter that is for all of us. So where he came from, where he didn't come from, what he did, whoever claims him, he's a universal being. And he is supposed to be, as opposed to he coming from here, him coming from there, he is supposed to be the symbol of spiritual perfection. I've been to the north, where the Dagombas say Okonfo-Anochi comes from Dagomba, and they have a whole theory to it. I've been to the Volta, there's a whole theory to it. I've been to the Nzimas also have a whole theory to Anochi. You understand? Why? Because he is an Ofo. So when something becomes Ofo, it does not belong to the community again. Police for, they don't belong to one area. Soldier for, they don't belong to one area. Their jurisdiction is not in one area. A driver for, their jurisdiction is not in one area. So as an Okonfo, he is for all of us. So everybody has the right to claim him. Does it answer your question? Yes, please.
Yes, so thank you very much for this enlightening.
You are welcome.
Very insightful. My question has to do with this historical accounts I've heard over and over again, but I haven't gotten any concrete evidence or confirmation to it. It has to do with, at a point, I heard Asante people, or it has it that Asante people went to bring Mosi men to procreate with their women. And I have this certain had Mosi, so I'm so interested in it and I'm so eager to find. I've been probing, but I can say it's one of the reasons I came to this university.
Okay, you look like it though.
I've asked my lecturers, but they told me there is no concrete confirmation.
It's true.
It's true.
Now, let me tell you something about the formation of the Asantes. Asante, like I said, is by birth, by affiliation, and by, how do you call it? Allegiance. Birth, affiliation, or allegiance. You understand? So, the woman is the owner of the family. The man does not own a family in Asante. It's the woman that owns the family. So what they used to do is that the typical Asante man or typical Asante woman is 4 feet. The tallest Asante person you can find is 5 feet. That's the original, pure, indigenous. You understand? So, because the women were those that were actually the owners of the families, and the women used to partake in a lot of the trading and the traveling, so what they used to do is when these Moshi men come, when these Dagombas, when these TikTok people come, you understand? Okay, cinema. You understand? Because anyone that impregnates an Asante woman, the child does not belong to the man. The child belongs to the Asante woman. So there was a lot of other tribes that the women were given to. 1, for strength. 1, for diplomacy. 2, for diplomacy. 3, for convenience. 4, for allegiance. And you see, a town like Bantama was actually created out of the Moshi, the Dagomba, the Frafra, the Sisala, the Mamprusis, you understand, as mercenaries. So when they came to Asante, that is where they were all stationed. So after a period of time, then it became a big barracks like Burma camp. And then Nketia was given jurisdiction of that place, and then it became Bantama. So yes, Asante is a mixture of Aibe. Asante is a mixture of Frafra. Asante is a mixture of all the way from Mali, Niger, Gao, Sisala. All tribes are in Asante. Every single tribe that Asante had encounter with, you understand, we made sure we took a bit and piece of the blood or the DNA of those people to set Asante. Because the women own the family. You understand? So it's true. It's very, very true. Asante is a mixture of all the races, all the tribes. So even if you are an European, you are wise, and then you pay allegiance, you are Asante. So yes, your people are part and parcel. Don't you see the Asantes and the Dogombes and the Moshis are the closest than, we are closer to those up north than even those down south. Have you realized that?
You communicate with somebody in Cote d'Ivoire, the person tell you I have family.
Exactly. So you call them and they have families. And even you go to the Gomba land, we have Asante communities, the Gomba communities that do Asante funerals. They wear cloth, they wear ahinema, they practice the same as Asantes, but they had the Gombas. But because they came at a point in time to live in Asante, they adopted that, took it back to Dagomba, and still kept, you understand? Every chief in Asante has something we call Ohini Kremo. What is the meaning of Ohini Kremo? The chief's malam. Every paramountcy has Akwemu, and every paramountcy or every king has Ohini Kremo. So even if you go to Mensha Palace right now, you will find Opokuwari II, right, in a cloth that has a lot of the Arabic sir. The whole cloth is based on Islamic sigils. So we have people from the north, people from Mali, Burkina, Dagomba, Sisala, Moshi, you understand, who are actually spiritualists for the Mensha Palace and some of these chiefs. And their great grandfathers had been serving for over 400, 500 years, and their generation is still serving. It's an allegiance. So that is where we have, you hear this word Intafo. What is the meaning of Intafo? When they say Intafo, some people think it is derogatory. It's not derogatory. What is Intafo? No, that is not the real story. That is a common story. What is Intafo? Is where Tenny. Wait, Intafo. No. Intafo comes from the word Intafoifo. Intafoye. When they say Intafoye, it's magic, sorcery, black magic. The Northerners were the strongest in terms of black magic. You understand? And the Asantes, when they were coming, they first made stops in the north with the Gonjas. So the Gonjas and the Northerners, the Mapuches and Co, who led the Asantis to the south. So when they were coming down, they came with a lot of people from Mali who were also Malams and mystics. In Tafuayifo, so if somebody has an issue and it's a spiritual issue, then Yanko Fre in Tafuayini Numba. In Tafuayini Numwe, do yin Tafua, no be in Tafua, and we are in Tafuayifo, magicians and sorcerers. So when they say in Tafua, it does not mean they work in pairs. No, in Tafuayifo, they are magicians and they are sorcerers. People that have access to black magic. Does he answer your question?
Thank you so much. I think you deserve a historical respect.
How again, sir?
I said, I think you deserve a historic crystal respect.
Thank you, sir.
My question is, you're talking about Puduo from Ile-Ife in Nigeria. There is a story I once told by my grandfather that Puduo migrated from northern part of Egypt. I don't know how true it is. They migrated from northern part of Egypt to Ile-Ife. I don't know. I want to get your concept on
I would not debate that in the sense that Ifa itself, Ifa was brought from Egypt. The Yoruba person who brought it, the first Yoruba person who studied or who brought Ifa as a system to Nigeria brought it from Egypt. So Ifa is the offshoot of what was happening in Kemet. So after the break of Kemet, what we had left was the Ifa or the Afa. So he studied it in Kemet, in Egypt, brought it to Nigeria, taught his king's folks, and then the other tribes also studied from them. So you have the Yoruba, or the Anagofa, you have the Yevefa, you have the Fonfa, you have the different fa, but they all based on the 16 Odus. So I would not put that past that at all. Because if you look at the system that they operate in Ile-Ife and you study the Kemetic theory of the Netarus, it's very similar in nature. So I would not put it past that.
You witnessed the war that outbroke there was a war that outbroke.
Yeah.
It was part you witnessed it.
Yeah, and have you been to Ile-Ife before? You've been there before. And you see, Ile-Ife is the white city. Everything they do is white. Every time they wear white. Because of Obatala and Odudua, you understand? And then Ajay, so I will not put it past that. But I have to do more research into that. But what I know, the connection that I know with Nigeria and Kemet is through the Ifa. Because in Kemet we used to study the Sophia, S-O-F-I-A. Now if you take the F-I-A and then you reverse it as I-F-A, what do you have? Ifa.
So I have a controversial question.
Yes, please.
So
two more questions.
So the man who is currently Puduo,
yes,
he's openly a Freemason.
Yes.
You see him, and sometimes you see him in church,
Yeah.
bowing down.
Yeah.
Is that not conflict of interest to Sikaja? Because
Sikeja.
Sikeja. Because he has sworn allegiance to Sikeja. So why is he also allowed to swear allegiance to all these other?
Okay, let me give you a very good answer to your question. When Otunfo Prempe, Ajiman Prempe, the first, when the 7th war between the British and the Asantis, when they came at Akwesidai, right? When they came at Akwesidai, and for information, when Asantis say Akwesi Broni, the first time the Asantis saw a bunch of white people You understand? In full effect, was on a Sunday when they were seated in state at an akwesi there. That is when they made a public appearance in their large numbers. So the first time Asante saw those group of people, you understand, in those large numbers was on a Sunday akwesi there. That's why we call them akwesi broni, because they appeared on a Sunday. Okay, secondly, I said Ajimai Prepare had a choice. Either you go into exile or we annihilate the whole of Ashanti. There was two choices. He had a choice to stay and fight and lose the kingdom, or he had a choice to do it. They say diplomacy, they have a word they use. They have a word. Who are the diplomats here?
Buy some time.
Not even buy some time per se, like you have to find a common ground. Negotiation. You understand? So back to the Freemason. Compromise. The Freemason is not an European ideology. Everything you see there, the Eye of Heru, is not from Europe. The deities, the divinities, the powers, the rituals, everything in the Freemason is from Kemet. And he is the owner of Kemet. He is the Asari. He is the Feru Ekufu. He is the Asasi. He is the Tutu Ankuma. So he has more direct authorization and access to that Freemasonry than any other organization. You have more authority over the Freemasonry, whether it's 33, you understand, the 33 rights, or the 30 rights, or the 12 rights. You have all that authority over that because it is yours. So until we go back and start claiming Christianity, until we go back and start claiming Hinduism, until we go back and start claiming Buddhism, because all these things have their origins where? In Africa. So we have two choices. We can leave it for them to dictate the pace, or we can go in there and claim what needs to be claimed. Now, secondly, to answer your question of the church, you understand why he goes to there is a pact. There is a pact between the Anglican Church and then the Asantis. There's a pact. And that pact between the two of them, I don't want to go deeply into that one. No. There's a pact. And that one, I don't have the authority to speak on it. Unless I go and ask for permission before. If I'm permitted to speak on it, then the next session I will reveal it. I will reveal it, and I have to ask permission first. Please. I think we have two questions. The last question, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, the pact. So the next session remind me of the pact. Yes, sir.
I want to know who is Ashanti woman. Because if you look at the history, the women like plenty do with the Ashanti man belong to Ashanti. So what's the reason behind the Ashanti woman?
Why the reason behind the family being from the Ashantis?
No, the women, the women like, also movie of Ashanti, something like that. So there's something unique with the
yes.
women.
Yeah, last week we explained it. I'll explain it again. But before then, you look like, who does he look like? Please let them see your face. Who does he look like? Look at his face. He looks like Pa Thomas. Doesn't he look like Pa Thomas? Yeah, you look very much like Pa Thomas. Okay, so last week I was explaining the concept of why the family is owned by the woman. Because I said, 2 men or even 3 men, you understand, can have a big old confusion over a woman's pregnancy. A man can say, I was with her first. No, that's my pregnancy. This is my pregnancy. So sometimes even, have you seen a maternity test before? There's never anything called maternity test. Have you heard of paternity test? It happens all the time. Why? Because if you want to know, the father wants to know that he is the true father of the child, he has to do what? Do a paternity test. But the mother, there's nothing like a maternity. Why? Exactly. Everybody saw it in your belly. There's no argument to it. So there's nothing like maternity test, but there's paternity test. No woman, no other woman can challenge another woman and say the baby you are carrying your womb is my baby. There's no argument. But the two of us can argue. They say, no, that's my baby. This, no, I was with her first. But maybe even the two of us is not none of us. So we only came to water. The planter himself is seated somewhere. We are only just water. We just came to water a bit of it. You understand? You had like 2 weeks, me, I had like 1 month. You understand? But the real boss himself is chilling somewhere. So with the men, there's always an argument. But with the women, you can never argue the maternity, you understand, of the child. But you can always argue the paternity of the child. That is why the woman is the foundation of the family.
And you don't even need a test, that's the point.
That's the thing. Exactly. Because it's in your belly. And everybody can see it.
So I believe on that, that's what they are.
Exactly. To avoid the confusion. Yeah, because you can be the next king. And then after 10 years, I come out of the blue and I'm like, this is my son. And another one comes, this is my son. You understand? It happens all the time. But we've never seen 2 women claiming 1 child. But we've seen 2, 3, 4 men claiming 1 child. But 2 women can never claim a child. 2 men can claim a child. Avoid the confusion. Avoid all the confusion. Yes. Prof, is our time due, right? Yes, let me just make a small introduction. Royal, Pacho. This is the Royal Secretary of the Mpese Royal Family. Yes, the Mpese Royal Family, please. The Mpese Royal Family is the official diasporan chieftaincy institution set up by the Ghana Traditional Council that deals strictly with diasporan affairs. You know, so the Ghana Traditional Council has formally inducted us to be the 8th clan of the Ghana state. The Ghana have 7 states or 7 clans. The 8th clan are the Lost Tribes, and the Lost Tribes has been created for all the diasporans scattered all over the world, for them to come under that chieftaincy institution. So on Saturday, right? Yes, on Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Art Center, Abajo, the Ghana chair, the major chiefs in Accra, and all the leaders, the kingship leadership in Accra, we are all going to converge, and then officially the Mpese chief is going to be outlawed. The Mpese royal family means this. When we talk about Mpese, this is what Mpese means. Locks. This is what it means. So the locks has become a symbol, you understand, within the Ghana Traditional Council, where we use that as the converging grounds, you understand, to bring all the diasporans together. So we probably want to say something brief, you know, on it, and then.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, as I was saying, he is one of our kingmakers, and he goes by the name Ni Usabuba for Jasiche. Yeah, on Saturday we'll be at the Abajo Rastafari Council of Ghana and Yard and Foreign Radio. They have come together with collaboration with, as he was saying, with the Ghana Traditional Council, and we are having this program at Abajo, and we want to invite all of you here to the program. Thank you.
So it's a very historic place. It's a very historic program. It's never been done, you know, and for the first time in the history of Ghana, you know, especially in the history of Ghana, now people with dreadlocks can ascend to chieftaincy positions, because people with dreadlocks couldn't ascend to chieftaincy positions. You will only ascend to chieftaincy positions under the spiritual office. But now we can ascend to chieftaincy positions both in the spiritual offices and then in the governmental offices. Yeah, so it's a big history in the making on Saturday, and it's going to be. Yes, sir. Are we done?